We are so excited to share with you
Goodness and Glory Farm.
About 5 years ago, my parents were both diagnosed with breast cancer within 3 months of each other. 3 years later, my mother-in-law was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. This was very difficult for our family to wrap our head around, to understand what was going on. Even as an adult, this diagnosis was hard for me to comprehend, to try to figure out what to do. I was completely paralyzed with fear. I started researching to no end on what I could do to help my parents with their cancer, how to prevent cancer for my children. I was grasping at all these things because of this fear in my life. As I was trying to gain control over the situation in my life, I began to homestead. And homesteading was one of those things that made me get outside. It made me take the time to come outside and just pause and be still. So even as an adult Christian, I didn't realize what I needed at the time. But through getting outside and getting in God's creation and seeing His goodness all around us, I realized what healing was taking place in my own life. Now this fear didn't seem to be so paralyzing. It was actually something that I felt like I could get through. I knew that God was helping me get through it by focusing on His creation and all the goodness around us and all the good that He's done in my life.
About 6 years ago, our family experienced a crisis, and one of our children was affected more than the others. And in my quest to help our family and this child through this experience, we came upon an equine mentorship program, and she was greatly affected by this. We saw reduced anxiety, her sleeping patterns were better, and not only did she benefit from this program, our whole family did, because we would end up taking her and sitting in the family areas, and it just became a wonderful experience for the whole family. It became a healing experience for the whole family. And within the last 2 years, I just feel like the Lord has been dealing with us and just kind of shifting our focus. You know, when something like that terrible happens to your family, you kind of wonder, how is God going to use this? How can He take something that's so broken down and terrible and heartbreaking? How can He make something good out of it? And I believe that that's why Goodness and Glory Farm was birthed in our hearts, was so that something that was so devastating can now be used for His good and His glory, and we can kind of reach back and say, hey, I see that you're struggling, I see that you're going through a really, really hard time, I see that you're going through a crisis, and we can help those children and those families that are experiencing crisis to overcome and heal from that as well, because we've been there, we know what it feels like, we've experienced it ourselves, and that's how Goodness and Glory Farm started for us and our family.
We pair hurting children with mentors and farm animals to find His goodness and see His glory.
That every hurting child would find God's goodness, see His glory, and experience true healing.